Good evening everyone, this is Sam. For today's video I am gonna be doing a sequel to the previous Condition Ranger build video in order to showcase a different build that turns out to be better in some specific circumstances. On the second hand, I will be talking about the Druid build and especially the new Power Druid build that has surfaced and how its rotation can be rather refreshing from the classic Druid builds. I hope that you guys will enjoy this video. So first of all, as I said, I wanted to talk about Condition Ranger. Earlier this week, I have released a guide and build explanation video, which was rather complete and specific to a build that I thought was the best. But there is no absolute best. As our father Nemesis would say, there is only best at. And as such, I have been drawn to look at the build that was showcased on Reddit by Renegatus and more specifically by Dickies2Chaos. My friends from LN have been trying out this build and gotten some very hard numbers by grinding the golem. While I do not have any enjoyment in grinding the golem, I have to say that the numbers are significantly higher. As such, I believe it is time to explain what is different and which build will be better in which situation. So first, to go back onto the one I showed earlier this week, it would be better in any situation that has adds. The main reason as to that is because the build by Ren is using Earth Sigils. Earth Sigils are proc based and go onto a single target. That means that if the Earth Sigil procs onto an ad, you are getting that much less DPS on the boss. So if you are in any fight where there are ads, you might want to use the one I explained earlier. If you are into a fight where there are little to no ads, such as Cairn or Mursat Overseer, you would be wanting to use this new build instead. The differences between the two builds are rather minimal. You will be using Crate Runes instead of the Nightmare and Trapper split, and you will be using an Earth Sigil in lieu of the Malleus one. This is the only difference you would be seeing between the two builds. This one sports slightly higher DPS against single targets of about 1000. While this does not make a huge difference into a raid squad, more specifically with mechanics that can happen and the different proficiency of each of your players, it might actually be a little increase that would be enjoyed and might save you from that one person Gorsa wipe. Now, for the second part of the video, I would like to go back onto Druid. The video that I made earlier this week indeed was only about Condition Ranger. As far as the Druid builds go, the only difference is of course to take the Druid line. The traits are the same as usual. You would be going for Spotter because you want to be bringing that buff for the entirety of your team, and then you would be using the split that I showed for Condition Ranger. It is exactly the same one that you would use on Druid. As such, if you do not want to spend too much gold, or if you do not want to specialize within your builds, you might want to take this one as your be-all and all. But once again, it is not the best at single target. Now, as far as the Druid utilities go, they vary between the fights. Let's say that the classic one would be to take both spirits, the Glyph of Empowerment, and then a Glyph of Unity. You can also take Entangle based on some encounters. For example, at Veil Guardian you would want to immobilize the Seekers, or at Gorseval you would want to immobilize the Spirits, but this is down to the strategies used by your own raid squad. The difference in DPS, while substantial, would not be of major importance into the actual fight if your team is used to a specific tactic. The rotation is the same as before the patch. You would do exactly a Condition Ranger rotation, weapon-wise, and use the glyphs as a way to get Astral Force in between. The difference in food between the two builds is that instead of having a rare veggie pizza, you would be using prickly pear pies. The reason behind that is that prickly pear pies have a life steal effect, and this counts towards healing. As such, it will charge your Astral Force faster than dealing pure damage. Now that this has been explained and that, as you know, the rotation hasn't changed from before the patch, let's move on to the power build. The power build is based on a different trait that has happened to Ranger. As we have explained in the previous videos, some traits have been changed. We're mostly talking about Taste for Danger, which is very important for any Condition Ranger or Condition Druid build. However, if you are going onto power, you have a different trait as well. Vicious Quarry tends to be better than Quick Draw at the moment. So if you take it and then swap everything to power, which is going to take a little while, so I will accelerate that part. We have now swapped everything, and as you might have looked, we truly need build templates, because this takes way too long in an actual run. So this is full Berserker armor with Rune of the Scholar, then full Berserker weapons with Air and Force sigils, and then full Berserker trinkets. If you are playing this build, you will use full power infusions. Now that this has been explained and that we have shown what gear we are using, let's have a second time to explain the trait. So the Lesser Call of the Wild is not particularly relevant, does represent a blast, so if there is a water field or a fire field, you might want to swap pets. An example for that is at Xera, once you are done with the platforms and you are getting back to the fight, everyone blasts Smite, this is a good moment to swap your pet. At the same time, we have the usual Steady Focus, we have the usual Predator's Onslaught. These are damage modifiers, so you do not want to dodge, except in specific situations where you can do otherwise, and you want to make sure that you have Cripple maintained on your target. And then the other traits are usual, except for Vicious Quarry. Vicious Quarry has a ferocity increase. This is extremely substantial because it means that your DPS is gonna go up by that much. Now, onwards to the food. For the food on this one, we're going to be using the Bowls of Sweet and Spicy Butternut Squash Soup, so you can steal these from your now diseased Ely, and the Tins of Fruitcake, which are the cheapest version of the Sharpening Stones. So as you can see right now, we are completely overcapped on that critical chance, which is not particularly good. As far as the crit chance goes, the reason why I said we are overcapping is because of this minor trait, which is Hunter Static, and if you are standing on the side or behind your target, you're getting 10% critical chance. So that means that instead of the 95 you're seeing here, you're actually at 105. Every single one of your hit is going to be a crit, and each one of these crits is benefiting from the higher ferocity that we have right now. This means that your damage is actually very good, and we are now going to do a rotation to show that it is indeed the case. So as you can see, we get about 17,000 damage per second, which is pretty solid, considering that the Condition Druid builds hover around 19 to 20k. This means that the builds are pretty much toe-to-toe and considerably above the old longbow sword axe build, which is around 16k in damage. However, if you want to use the longbow, specific encounters such as Samarog still have some use for that weapon. I would also advertise that right now in the gem store we have the Storm Bow, which is back, and this is, in my opinion, definitely the better skin for a longbow, so if you're looking for a good one, just go to the gem store right now. This concludes today's video, in which I have been explaining once again the new different Condition Ranger build, as well as the two Condition Druid build that are on the spotlight at the moment. And if you have any questions, you are free to ask them in the comment section of the video or on our Discord, which is also having a link in the description. If you have any other things that you would like to suggest, we have a Q&A still running for another 2 weeks, or you can just contact me by any means that you know of to suggest anything, and I will try to implement it for the future. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I wish every single one of you a happy day grinding the golem and to get good.